We live in a really unaware society. It's actually scary how underdeveloped we are. And one way this manifests is we're taught behaviors that society thinks are healthy, but which are actually trauma responses. Yet many of these behaviors are praised by our culture and people get rewarded for doing them, so surely they can't be that bad. But you're doing these behaviors and you're not happy, are you? Why is that? If we ever truly want to become independent adults, we need to question what was taught to us and why we were taught it, and if this is still serving us today. We need to get in touch with what actually makes us feel healthy and good, rather than what other people have told us we should do that should make us feel healthy and good. This is an unavoidable step if we want to heal and to grow. So here's 5 behaviors that you can check within yourself to see if you're doing them because they are indeed healthy for you and they serve you, or if they're actually covering up a bit of trauma that you might need to look at in order to genuinely heal and improve your life. Number 1, you're very sensitive to other people's feelings. Are you an emotional bloodhound? Do you know exactly how other people are feeling, maybe before they even know it themselves? And do you take pride in being so emotionally aware? Well, this can be a great skill, and it can also be a sign of unresolved trauma. Let me tell you what I mean. Being super sensitive to other people's emotions can be a response to when you were a child needing to be so sensitive in order to keep yourself safe. If you were a child who had to be extra sensitive to the moods and behaviors of your caregivers, then this sensitivity would have really helped out. Maybe one day mom is calm and happy, but the next day she's really not with it and she's freaking out and you're freaking out and dinner is late and nobody is grateful in this household or maybe dad is usually a bit tired, but usually pretty chill. But sometimes he comes home and he is angry and he takes it out on you and he shouts at you. In circumstances like these, you learned as a child that life is unpredictable and you always need to be aware of what's going on in case someone flips out. But children need predictability, stability, and routine. And so you are required to learn so early on how to be sensitive to what other people are thinking and feeling so that you can anticipate their needs and try and give them what they want so that they don't freak out on you so that you can keep yourself safe. I am very emotionally sensitive. That's why I'm training to be a therapist. And I used to pride myself on knowing exactly what other people were feeling and usually having a pretty good idea of what I could do to try and make them feel a certain way. But do you know the funniest thing? I was completely out of touch with my own emotions. I was so obsessed with other people's emotions, but I had no idea what was going on in here. Let alone how I would express that in a healthy way or regulate myself so that I could feel kind of the way that I wanted to feel and feel more stable. I thought I was so mature for being so emotionally sensitive and aware, when actually my emotional sensibility came from a very young and very scared place that was just trying to protect me. It wasn't maturity, it was a coping mechanism that I had learned to keep myself safe. If you're an emotionally sensitive person, notice how much time you spend thinking about other people's emotions rather than your own. Spend time thinking about how your caregivers were in your childhood. Did your parents know how to handle you emotionally and to let you express that in a healthy way? Or were you shut down? Or allowed to be a little bit too free so that you had no idea how to regulate yourself and you just became this emotional mess? Did your parents know how to emotionally regulate themselves? Or did you have to spend most of your time worrying about their emotions instead of your own? The second behavior that society often praises and sees as normal but could actually be a sign of trauma is that you're an overachiever. Overachieving is a very helpful condition to have. You get to do things better than other people, and you get to be praised for being better than other people, which often comes with a lot of rewards in life. And there's nothing wrong with achieving in and of itself. If you're talented and good at something and you enjoy doing it, go and do it. A good life does require a degree of material success. However, many overachievers aren't pursuing success because they intrinsically are motivated to do so. They're doing it because they are scared not to. Most overachievers are miserable. Ask me how I know. And we're miserable because we never have enough. Overachievers place our happiness just out of reach somewhere in the future in the next achievement. So it often sounds like, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I get good grades. I'll be happy when I get into that university. I'll be happy when I get that job I want. I'll be happy when I get that promotion and that salary increase that really shows how much I'm worth. But then we get that thing, and it might feel good for a little while, but inevitably we are unfulfilled and we just go back to being miserable. It just never ends. And so the overachiever spends their entire life with happiness just out of reach over here, which leaves them in the present feeling like they are not enough. This feeling of being not enough comes from childhood. When we're children, we're especially sensitive to the ways that we receive love and attention because without them we would die. And the main way that some of us received love and attention was praise for achieving things. Bring home an A grade and mum and dad go, "Oh, well done." Bring home a C and nothing really happens. Worse, they get annoyed at you. Usually it's a bit more complicated than that, but the end result is that we learn that we get our sense of worth by accomplishing things, not inherently from who we are. And this leads us to create a self-esteem that's based on achievement. Who we are is not enough. We have to do. And the problem with having a self-esteem based on achieving and doing is that you can't always be achieving and doing. So what happens is you'll feel anxious when you're not sitting in a recent achievement, which is 99.9% of your entire life. And then even when you do get that achievement, it only lasts for a very short amount of time before the next need to achieve something kicks in and your happiness is shunted just into the future again. No amount of success will ever fill that hole that feels like you're just not good enough. So if you're an overachiever, ask yourself these questions. Am I actually happy? Do I really believe that achieving that next thing will make me happy? When will I allow myself to be happy? And then start to cultivate within yourself a little voice that tells you that you are good enough just as you are. You are inherently lovable just because you exist. It's a totally foreign concept, but if you work on it, you'll find out a way of making it work for you. Because that little tiny 5-year-old inside of you is just begging for you to tell it that you are lovable just for who you are. The third behavior that society often thinks is normal, but that may actually be a trauma response, is that you are overly kind and humble. Society tells us that humility is a virtue. Our parents, our teachers, our church say, be modest, don't brag, be selfless. And there's truth there. Humility is important because it reminds us that we're only human. We make mistakes sometimes, and that's okay. And kindness is important because it allows us to forgive ourselves for making mistakes. And it allows us to forgive other people for making mistakes too, because they're also only human. In an ideal world, We face the fact that we made a mistake, we admit it and we own it. We feel that embarrassment. We make a conscious decision to remember it and not to repeat it. And then we go about our day. Unfortunately, that's not where kindness, humility, and selflessness often take us. Usually, these values are taught in a way that makes us selfless without a self. It makes us neglect our own needs, our own healthy desire for a strong sense of self and our own power, our own feelings, our own anger, and our own selfishness. These are all healthy too. And what happens when we're taught that we're not supposed to have those things if we want to be kind and humble and selfless is that we learn to become detached from our own needs. And we end up living for what we think other people want rather than what we know is good for us. I think that the recent societal trend of being arrogant and selfish and having like a villain arc is a reaction to this. But it doesn't have to be that way. The missing trick here is healthy boundaries. In fact, all of this video is actually about healthy boundaries, but if I just turned on the camera and said, get healthy boundaries, you wouldn't have much of a video, so you can have the long version. If you notice that you struggle to feel a real sense of pride in your achievements, to receive gifts without feeling guilty, or to accept a compliment, then you probably suffer from being too humble. If you feel stretched by all the constant asks of other people, but feel too anxious and guilty to say no, then you probably suffer from being too kind. These behaviors come from a lack of self-worth, from low self-esteem. And because you have low self-esteem, you need to look to other people to esteem you, to make you feel good about yourself. So you look after other people so that they praise you so that you can feel good. Or you do this thing for someone so that they tell you you're great so that you feel good. But you don't feel good inside because you're not giving that message to yourself. You're afraid to say no because you won't get that validation. But that fear is going to build up and turn into resentment and anger if you don't start looking after your own needs and speaking up for yourself. You need to start owning yourself as a person of power who can look after yourself. But you're probably afraid, and that makes a lot of sense. And if this is you, then you need to learn one thing. You are the only person who can take care of your needs. If you feel unhappy or resentful or like you're overgiving, you're the only one who can fix that. And please don't hear that as criticism or like I'm calling you a bad person or saying that you need to like fix this problem in you. That critic that says that and that interprets these things in that way is what's stopping you from reclaiming your own power and speaking up for yourself and giving love to yourself. I've actually made a video on how to work with your inner critic. It's linked up here. Go and check it out. And finally, the fourth behavior that society tells you is normal and healthy but could actually be a trauma response is that you're super independent. Other people can just be such blockers to your life, you know? You have a plan, you have everything you need to do it, you know what you need to do, and you can do it yourself. You don't need other people, they'll just get in the way and slow you down. Independence is a super important trait if you ever want to grow up and really be an adult in your own right. But being too independent is actually very childish. Our modern Western culture promotes independence way too much. Most of our celebrities are these rugged individuals who pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, grabbed at the first opportunity, and are now super independent and never need anything from anybody. But this idea is so stupid. Of course you need things from other people. You literally can't exist without other people in your life. You live in a society that provides laws that keep you safe. You buy food from the grocery store that someone had to grow, someone had to harvest, someone had to transport to the store, and someone in the store had to put on the shelf so that you could pick it up and pay for it. Just the whole idea of super independence is so dumb, and it really annoys me, especially because I used to fall into that quite a lot. You are way less independent than you think. You are interdependent on a lot of things, or even just purely dependent, and that's okay. You need other people to survive, and these people probably care about you. Your friends, your family, even your colleagues probably care about you and want the best for you. And they might not always be able to express that in a way that you kind of want to hear it or even need to hear it. But that doesn't mean that you should just cut them out of your life and never try and rely on them at all. Your hyper-independence is an avoidant behavior. And avoidant behaviors often come from feeling smothered as a child or from having emotionally distant parents. So you never really learned how to have that closeness with another human being, and it feels kind of weird and too exposing. The key part of being a functional human being is learning interdependence and learning how to rely on other people just as they rely on us. And so if you're overly independent, start noticing some of the ways that you do in fact rely on other people. Ask yourself, how do my friends help me? How does my family look out for me? What things in society do I take for granted that actually require other people to work on and maintain? And once you've got an idea of that, you can also start looking at yourself and ask, why am I afraid of letting other people get close? So there's 4 behaviors that our society thinks are brilliant virtues, but which may in fact actually be trauma responses. If you relate to any of them or think I missed one, then please let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you all the best on your healing journey, and I'll see you again soon.